Welcome to Top 10 Archive. When faced with our own mortality, all we can hope to do is accept and embrace it gracefully, and maybe mutter out a pretty memorable and coherent sentence as you meet your final moments, such as these 10 individuals. Number 10. Alexander the Great. Legendary ruler of the ancient Greek kingdom, Alexander the Great was credited with saying many great things in his life, so, of course, he did so as well as he was dying. Just moments before his death, Alexander stated, "To the strongest," after he was asked who should succeed him. This was in reference to the strongest of his generals, Craterus. Number 9. James Brown. The godfather of soul, James Brown, surrounded by his family, died from congestive heart failure on Christmas 2006 at the age of 73. As he lay dying in his deathbed, he uttered the words to his family, "I'm going away tonight." Those who were around him during the time said he seemed to have been at peace with his life and was content to move on. Number 8. Joan Crawford. An actress of both film and theater, dancer and pinup model, Joan Crawford was and still is highly regarded by those in the industry. Diagnosed with cancer in her 70s, she would refuse medical treatment. Two nurses who were employed for her, upon realizing she was dying, offered to say a prayer for her. In typical Joan Crawford manner, upon hearing them pray, declared, "Don't you dare ask God to help me," right before she passed. Number 7. Del Close. Legendary comedian and actor Del Close was an inspiration to many modern greats such as Bill Murray, Stephen Colbert, and the late Chris Farley. Laying upon his deathbed in a hospital, Del said, "Thank God, I'm tired of being the funniest person in the room," which were obviously intended to be his last words. However, due to circumstance, he let his friends and family know he wasn't comfortable, in which they said, "We're doing the best we can, Del." Then he spoke his last words, "You could have done better." Number 6. Steve Burns. Steve Burns was an American television producer and announcer, best known for his involvement in NASCAR as a pit reporter. His final words may not have been heard verbally, but it was heard by the multitude as he tweeted his final thoughts. The tweet simply read, "I went the distance," which speaks highly of his attitude even after his long bout with cancer, which eventually claimed his life. Number 5. Winston Churchill. Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and British statesman who led Britain's fight against Nazi Germany during World War II, Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was a man of many accolades and was said to speak the eerily calm last words of, "I'm so bored with it all," before going into a coma and dying just 9 days later. Number 4. Alfred Hitchcock. Dubbed the Master of Suspense, director and filmmaker Alfred Hitchcock was known for his interest and craft of the macabre, so it's expected as such that he would exit this life with some cryptic final words. According to those present during his time of death, he stated that, "One never knows the ending. One has to die to know exactly what happens after death, although Catholics have their hopes." Number 3. Aleister Crowley. Notable magician, poet, painter, novelist, and occultist, Aleister Crowley spent his last minutes dying addicted to heroin. After being bedridden and living in poverty, his friends and family maintain he kept a positive mood until his final breath. His last words were, "I am perplexed. Satan, get out," which many believe were uttered due to thoughts brought on by his drug addiction. Number 2. Belinda Emmett. Shortly after Australian actress Belinda Emmett looked up at her weeping sister in the eyes, asking her, "Are you all right?" she would witness her last moment as she succumbed to her prolonged battle with breast cancer. This touching moment shows how compassionate and kind someone can be when faced with death. In the end, she just wanted to make sure her sister was fine. Number 1. Humphrey Bogart. Known as a longtime heavy drinker and smoker, Humphrey Bogart would be diagnosed with esophageal cancer in 1956, though many people claim that his last words were, "I should have never switched from scotch to martinis." This was actually from a book written by Nicholas Freeling. It just sounded like something Bogart would have said. According to his wife, though, Lauren Bacall, his true last words were, "Goodbye, kid, hurry back," as she left his side at the hospital to pick up their children. Yeah, I think one of these days I'd like to really travel to someplace exotic, like Papua New Guinea, see some of the primitive tribes that are there. Probably my last words will be, "So, you're a cannibal."